Hey guys, so today we are going to be doing another video related to the GHK GBB conversion kit. Now, this video is going to fill two requests. One was that I just make another video about this kit, which, it's great. I love when people make requests. Gives me something else to do, gives me ideas, and plus I help you out. And then the second request is the specific as far as what we're going to be doing today, which would be changing back to an AEG. Now, one of my viewers commented and said, "Hey, how could you make a video about switching it back from the kit to a AEG because he had bought the G&G combat machine with it pre-installed." So yeah. Those are great if you want this kit, but you don't want to have to install it yourself. That's great. However, if you want to change it back, I'm going to assume that you have a few things. Number one, the tools, and I'm not going to go over all the tools that I use because that would be an entire other video in itself. And really, some of the tools are just personal preference. You really don't need anything that you wouldn't have in your house. Generally, depending on your gun body, some guns have specific sized Allen or hex screws on them, and you're going to need a specific size Allen wrench, but my gun has all Phillips head screws, so that's not a problem. But I don't know if the G&Gs use some may or may not, but have hex screws, so just keep on the lookout for that. That is specific to your gun body and your manufacturer. Now, mine is in an AGM body, so it's going to be slightly different, but generally the same. And I'm going to try to make a note of anything that is different between the G&G and the AGM bodies. Now, the nice thing about the G&G bodies is they are exactly the same as the AEG body. They literally just G&G literally just takes the same bodies that they use for their AEG series, puts a sticker on them, and puts the gearbox, it puts the conversion kit in it, and then they're done, basically. So really there's no modifications that you should have to do. However, there are some parts that you are going to need that I will cover. Now, there's really not too much that you need to change differently. It's literally just pulling out the old one and putting in the new one. But there are some things you need to be aware of. Number one, the hop-up unit is very, very different. This is a regular AEG hop-up unit. However, go ahead and open mine up real quickly. I'm going to show you that the hop-up unit that the conversion kit uses is very, very different, and you will not be able to use the same one. So go ahead and pull the upper receiver over and put the lower over here. So it's very, very different, as you can see. This is the hop-up unit for the GHK conversion kit, and it looks similar, but it's definitely different. So yeah, if you don't have one of these regular AEG hop-up units, you will need this. You can also see how the feeding, I guess, tube, nozzle, whatever you want to call it, I'm sure there's an official name that I just don't know, but it's longer, and that's to go further down into the AEG magazines. This one is shorter, so yeah, just a few things to be aware of. This is one of the big ones, and yeah, so that's one thing. Another thing that you need to be aware of is, well, obviously you should have a AEG gearbox. This one is the one that came out of the gun originally, that I spent the last several years upgrading and modifying and crap. So yeah, this has also got, the reason why there's so much heat shrink here is because these are actually connectors, but I had problems with them shorting out, so I just slipped some heat shrink over them, so that fixed the problem. But yeah, you're going to need the AEG gearbox, and you're also going to need a motor as well. You're going to need the motor, and well, I mean, that's pretty much a given, and it's kind of an obvious sort of thing. The hop-up unit's not so obvious if you don't know. And then you're also going to need an array of parts. Now, these are things that have to do with the Selector, the way the stock is positioned, some stuff relating to your gun body. So this, here, I'll go ahead and take them out and show you where they all fit in. I'm not actually going to convert mine back because I want to keep it as a gas blowback, but I'm going to show you the things you need to know and be aware of. Here is the stuff for the lower that you're going to need to be aware of. The first thing you should notice is the way the screw is put in. It's, if you know anything about AEGs, and chances are if you're trying to do this, you do, that's not the way that it usually goes. It usually goes the other way, and you unscrew it through the stock. Let me explain what you need to make it that way, because you cannot use it this way for an AEG, I don't believe. Actually, you might be able to, depending on your body, but that's not the way it's meant to be, so I'm going to show you the way that it is. So, because of it like this, being like this, it's just unscrewing this, and such. It's easier for me to do it off camera, because they give you a different piece with the conversion kit that allows you to basically invert the way the screw is put in. So, get this out here. Alright, so this is the regular screw. You can use this when you're putting it back to an AEG. This is what comes with it. However, this you cannot. This is the piece that they give you. Basically, it's got a screw or a nut in the bottom of it that's put in there, and basically when it's in the stock, you just screw it into this. However, when it's an AEG, you have to have, you put it in the other way, and then there's a screw in the spring guide rod, so it screws into and holds the stock on, which means that you need a different piece to hold the stock on. So you need something like this, just a regular AEG one. I don't know if they sell these separately or not. Probably, I would guess, because you probably lose them. In fact, if they are using this particular piece, it looks like if they didn't, no, never mind, they glued the nut in. But if they didn't glue the nut in, or you could try getting it out, you might be able to use this piece. However, I would recommend just getting the proper one. They can't be that expensive. And basically just goes in like normal, and is basically, you know, just you put it on like you would usually, put it in, screw it into the back of the gearbox, and you're all golden there. Now, the next thing to make note of is going to be the selector switch, which is very, very different, and you are going to need some parts for. That you can't just modify them or, you know, anything like that. I mean, if you're an expert machinist, then you could just machine a new one, but chances are, if you have air guns, you're not, and you're trying to do this, you're not an expert machinist. And so, okay, now that that's done, we'll move on to what you need to know about the lower receiver and the selector switch. Now, usually, you'll see this in just a moment here. Usually, there's a little disc, well, a little piece that screws onto the back of the selector, and usually it's circular like that, but the one that they use in this, for whatever reason, is not circular, and so you will not be able to use it, and you're going to need to get a regular AEG one to fit onto a gearbox. So I'll go ahead and take my lower part real quickly. The magazine catch spring, this whole assembly right here, all of those parts, obviously you don't want to lose them, but those are going to be used for, you know, your regular AEG. Those stay the same. Your grip can usually stay the same unless I used some weird proprietary grip, which I'm pretty sure that G&G does not on theirs. And however, there is one thing that you will need to note with the grip, and also your random shavings for some reason. You will need to note that they only use one large screw that goes through the motor hole. You're going to need the other 4 for an AEG. And usually those are really small screws. If you got another grip, it would probably come with the proper screws, but that's another thing you will need. Let's see, go ahead and get the lower completely disassembled. Just pull out this pin, wherever my pliers went. This pin as well can also stay the same. It's not, I don't believe that they use one that's any different, so it can be used in an AEG. And after you get out the pin right here, you unscrew the grip and obviously take out the rear takedown pin, and also get out the magazine catch. This should just drop pretty free. So as you can see, this is just really just a little mechanical mechanism. It's not that complicated, but this is what I was talking about. So usually, as you can see on a regular AEG gearbox, there's like a circular cutout. This is just a flat bar. So the regular one for an AEG, which is this one, obviously would not fit there, but it fits into this slot. So the one that they use on here, as you can kind of see in my gun, as you can see how that's flat. It's just literally a flat bar. You're going to have to, mine, I lost the cover, but there will be a cover that you just pop out so you can get access to the screw, unscrew it, and put in the regular AEG one, and that is all that it takes. It's not that hard. Basically just do that, then just drop the gearbox straight in. So I'm not actually going to do it. I'm just going to leave the one that's in there. It's basically dropping, doesn't go in, the trigger. Basically it's just putting the gearbox straight in, like so, screwing it all up, putting all the pins back in, and reassembling it just like a regular AEG, provided you have all the proper parts. And then after you've replaced the hop-up bucking as well, or not the hop-up bucking, that can stay the same, but the hop-up unit, then when you reassemble everything, then you're golden. It should work just like a regular AEG, provided you get the gas seal and everything right. And you also need AEG magazines. Forgot to mention that, but I figured that'd probably be pretty obvious. But yeah, that's about it. I hope that helps you. Again, I really like the kit, but it's, as you can see, it's not very hard to change out as long as you have the proper parts. But that is key. You do need the right parts, or else this is going to be a big nightmare for you. So yeah, definitely get the right parts. I don't know. You can probably get most of these little parts from someplace, or like I know that Airsoft GI every now and then has boneyard sales, and they basically, it's just like a crap gun body and stuff. You can probably get most of these little pins, the little pins and the little pieces of hardware, the grip screws, stuff like that off of those sort of guns. And you know, you're probably going to spend like what, $10, $15, whatever, depending on how good the gun is in shape. And then you have another gun body, and so you could use that for whatever you please. But yeah, it's not really hard. This kit is designed to be drop-in. I mean, it's really easy. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the charging handle. Big thing here. There is usually a plate that screws onto the side of it, which allows you to get access to your hop-up unit. Basically just opens up the dust cover. On G&G, the spring is basically just holding it closed, and you just pull it open with your fingernail. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem, but I mean, really, it's just a minor aesthetic thing. But it's basically also the spring that comes with this is different than the regular one for a charging handle. So I don't know how different it is on the G&Gs. You could probably just use the same one. You might need to twist it or whatever, but you know, that's pretty much the same. But if you do end up getting like a boneyard gun and you're stripping it, then you just take the spring from that. So yeah, that's what I would recommend you doing. But I mean, really, it's easy. It's designed to be easy, and it's not that hard to change back and forth. And after you have all the parts, you can just go back and forth as much as you want. Whether you live in a place like I do, like in Virginia, where it's pretty cold for part of the year, and then it's, you know, nice. It's pretty warm in the summer. It's actually, you can actually use gas guns. You just change it back once a year, back and forth, once for the winter and once into the summer, and you know, that's pretty good. I think that's I think that I really like the way what they've done here, and they've made it affordable too. So honestly, I think that's great. But I will say one thing: if you're not mechanically inclined, be careful with this. And the fact that also, if you do not have an AEG gearbox, again, if you do not have one, you can get these pre-built. Make sure the wiring is front or rear, depending on what gun you have. I think the guy that commented, he left a link to the gun that he has, and I believe that one is rear wired. And you may need to change the stock and some minor stuff, but I mean, honestly, if you don't know what you're doing, you should go and have somebody that does know what they're doing do it for you or show you or something, because I mentioned this before in videos like this. These guns are very easy to mess up, so be careful about that. Also, if you have made the modification that I did to my magazine catch, depending on the gun body, you may or may not need to replace it with a regular one. But if you had just bought one from the factory when it's pre-installed, then you haven't made any modifications to it, you'll be good. But just for the people who have done that want to switch it back, I don't know. It's best that you just switch it back and try it, and if it doesn't work, then get another one. They can't be that expensive. Or chances are, if you work on guns a lot, you probably have an extra one just laying around. I have tons of them everywhere, so it's not that big of a deal for me. And yeah, pretty much the same stuff. It's pretty much after that, other than the stuff that you may not know, like I mentioned, like the different pieces of hardware and like the way the stock goes on. Other than that sort of stuff that's not obvious, everything else is just, it's, you know, what you're going to expect. If you don't know how to put an AEG back together, then don't try this. Just get somebody to do it. To be perfectly honest, if you know what you're doing, though, it's not hard. It's really not. And to be perfectly honest, you know, anybody can do it. And you just got to have a little bit of knowledge, basic knowledge of the way these work, and you're going to be cool. So, yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you for both of the guys that left requests. Helps me out a lot. You'd be amazed at how much I love getting requests, and I love filling them. So, thank you guys so much for that. And thank you for watching the video. I value all of your views to an incredible amount. So thank you for leaving your support. Thank you for leaving a like on the video and subscribing. It really does mean a lot to me. And as always, have a very nice day.